out there, all you Infinidels. This is Joel Traveler, also known as RattlerNext on the forums. And with me tonight is...
Kyle Bonderud. I'm Kyle on Facebook. And Yoink 101 on the forums, although I've posted 4 times in the last 2 years. So
that's the old one and the new one combined.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, there's a new one.
Yeah, I actually did register for that, so I'm pretty stoked.
I thought you got grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Fair
but
enough.
I logged on.
You did okay.
I did.
That's
for
very
the first
good of you.
time like a week ago.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
put a picture even?
No.
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 You're just a ninja.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good. Hey guys, and welcome. Tonight what our plan is you may be noticing we've traded out one co-host who has more hair on the back of his head, but we traded it for hair on the front of his head. And Michael got stuck in a training meeting tonight, and Obadiah is off in the wilderness, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't think that's true. I think he's just gone.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, but Kyle is actually one of our locals, and he started playing Infinity with us.
Yes.
That's true? Yeah.
Yeah, my first game, other than the Ice Storm box, was with Michael, and he killed my Yodam with a Shaolin monk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
pretty cool.
What a disparity of points that is.
I know.
Yeah.
That was bad.
And but it's Michael.
Yeah.
So not that he's mean, but he's just he'll show you.
Well, I told him not to pull any punches, and
It's
he
whatever.
didn't, right?
Yeah, that's what
Cool.
all of us honestly say, and
Yeah.
then you regret it.
No, I wanted it. I needed it to happen.
I needed that. I needed a Shaolin monk shoved up my Yodam.
Yep.
Yeah. So tonight, what our goal was we wanted to talk a little bit about starting off and list building for newer players. And I previously cast like a solo cast where I really talk about list building strategies, but it was really geared towards more experienced players, not just forum dudes who creep on the forum, but guys who are actually like rolling dice and been playing for a while. So this one is designed to ratchet that back and really go with something that's more like basic, where we talk through a couple strategies. We've got a bunch of lists that we can talk to and kind of some thought process on why we chose some of the lists that we did. But this is not meant to talk down to anybody at all. What we're really looking at is it's fascinating. I encourage you guys to think about this too, is when you think about how am I going to help with list building for very new players in a way that's both engaging, supportive, and helps them start on this like incredible learning curve that is Infinity, because it is just such a learning curve.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So let's see. Where should we start? Where's a good place to start?
JSA came out recently, so I feel like
They did.
I haven't gotten to talk about that, so that seems like a really good one.
Okay. Well, before we get into that, can
fair.
we let's go more strategic,
Gotcha.
and let's go with I'm a new player, and I really like some models.
I would start with one of the either Ice Storm or Red Veil starter boxes.
Yes.
I think that's great.
Well, and they're very well selling for a reason.
Yeah.
Right, because they're such an intro package. We've got a brand new player who's never rolled dice coming on this Saturday to our narrative event, and I'm very excited to have him.
Yeah,
and he's using Ice Storm. That's what made me think of it. So, okay, but why would you recommend those, Kyle?
Well, Ice Storm and Red Veil start with very simple lists, right? The first, they walk you through kind of an escalation of what you should expect from an Infinity game. So the first match is 3-line infantry against 3-line infantry. You're just going to see what happens, figure out how to get cover, how to do ranges, how to roll dice.
Right.
And that's really it. And so each mission after that adds one new model, 1 or 2 new rules. And I think that's a really good approach to a game that has so many rules in general.
Right.
Being able to take it step by step, one piece at a time.
Okay, that's a good point. And so I think that is, it's a great intro box. I'm very curious, is going to see any other 2-player starter boxes come out this year?
Oh, I would bet.
So, one of the things that I would like to say early on, and I don't think this is really talked about enough, and I've been thinking about it. I've been, thinking about it as I've been really busy the last few weeks driving around up and down the state, which is about the size of most countries. But one of the things that I'm thinking about is, especially for newer players, is the learning curve, and I mentioned it earlier on.
Yeah.
But this is one of those games. It's easy to get started, but difficult to master. but I don't think that is nuanced enough to really address how discouraging the game can be for newer players.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that is, I think that leads into what you said about all the rules, understanding all the profiles. We have about 5 new players in our local store.
Yeah.
We have a rotating group of about 20 about now, when you count in all those folks. Well, maybe 17. So, and one of them made the comments like, we would just we'll just converse and we'll say, yes, that's X points and it's this SWC and has these tools, and we've memorized 500 profiles. Yeah. And you get to a point in your learning curve where that is the norm.
Oh, it's
mandatory.
I've played against people who are newer, and I've looked at the units they put on the table for an army I don't play, and I've said, I think you've got 2 AD troops in that list. And they'll look at me and say, how do you know that? Right? Because you see it so many times, you sort of know what to expect. You look at what you see on the table and you think, that's probably about 250 points. I think you're short 2 orders.
Yeah. There's a Spitfire coming in, isn't there?
Yeah.
You're like a newer player. I mean, even older ones do.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. But one of the things I want to talk about with learning curve real quick before we start is, for those of you who are giving demos, or those of you to newer players, and those people who are new players happen to be watching this episode, is that this is a very challenging game, especially initially. If you, like you said, the very first game you go against one of the top players in the world, and you didn't know that walking into it, and he takes a 6-point model and kills your 115-point model. Yeah. He just does it.
Oh, that's great.
So you will lose quite a bit as you go along the path of learning, right? Like chess, if you play other people who are even a little bit more knowledgeable than you in chess, they will stomp you until you rise to their capabilities.
Yeah.
And it requires reading, and it requires study, and then you become more and more, and you become one of the vaunted chess masters.
Right. I mean, the wiki is the single greatest resource that this game has.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you encounter a new unit or a new rule that you didn't know about. You look at it. It links to examples and other rules that are related to it, and it's just fantastic.
Ian's done a great job with it, and it's extremely easy to use. Without that, I think without that, I would be incredibly lost, because I know that even guys who play all the time, even the guys who play really regularly and at the highest levels of play, I forget how rules interact.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or I'm tired.
Yeah.
And you can't be tired in this game.
No.
It's not really a casual game. It's just not. It takes a high level of engagement, and that's fantastic.
Although if you're not feeling that, Aristea is fantastic.
Is very chill. It's very easy. It's not beer and pretzels though.
No.
It's one step above, which is really enticing. So yeah. Anyway, strategically, that's what I wanted to say, is understand that you're starting on this wonderful journey, and it's going to be this uphill climb, and then you're going to get about halfway up the hill, and you're going to start getting some of those wonderful wins. We had the Las Vegas Open. We had one of our local players, Mitchell, who's been playing with us for like a year and a half, got his first win ever.
Wow.
And he got it at a tournament.
That's awesome.
At the LVO.
Oh, that's great.
With some amazing players.
I forgot that he went. That's awesome.
And he was so excited, and you just saw a lot of things like encapsulate, and he's like, yes, I understand some things now.
Yeah.
And that's the journey you have to make and commit yourself to, which is probably that's probably the hardest thing with this game, handling that discouragement.
And I think for players who are introducing new players,
yes,
it can be really hard to pull yourself back to that point where you don't know all of the rules, where you don't know all of the interactions, and really taking the time, right? If somebody's got the Ice Storm set, just play your Red Veil starter, right?
Yeah.
Don't even worry about building an optimized list. Don't worry about trying to win the game.
Don't bring Tariq.
Your objective is fair. Your objective is to teach somebody about this game, right? Give them a good experience. Give them a positive play experience. Don't necessarily throw down and try to kick ass. Sorry, can I say that?
You certainly can. This is
fantastic. So yeah, I mean, that's my point, right? If you're demoing for somebody, try to stay where they are comfortable, and then introduce rules one at a time.
Right.
This
is a process.
Yeah.
This is a process, right?
Yeah.
You don't teach. If you try to teach every chess move right off the bat, people are going to get lost. Do you know?
No, I was just setting it down very quietly.
Oh, very quietly. Yeah,
I was
yeah. We
trying
did.
to
We
not
did a
do
comment that we got coasters, and by the way, if you guys didn't see, Sam, our wonderful production staff, with gave us these coasters.
Yeah.
And I just realized I forgot something that Sam and Mark will probably get on me later about. Boy, I can't remember now.
Right.
So anyway, the back to what we were talking about, which was that, you know, part of it is just getting your head in the right game, appreciating the fact that you're dealing with a model or with a game that has extremely rich fluff for only a 10-year-old game, or the story is amazing. It's dynamic, it's wonderful gameplay, it's the fairest rule set you're going to find in a miniatures game, I think, period. And it's a learning curve, and it's tough.
Yeah.
But it's humbling, and who couldn't use a little more humbling in life?
Right.
I imagine.
Oh, everybody.
I certainly
Everybody
could.
needs it.
Yeah. Don't look at me so that way. Okay, so now let's get more into the nitty-gritty and the things that people care about, because they don't really understand the rest of what we talked about until they start losing incredibly.
That's fair. I guess something to keep in mind, right? If you're a new player and you're walking into this game and you get the rule books, you're looking at the wiki, and it's really easy to just try to read everything and try to figure everything out.
Because that's how most games work.
And it's a great thing to do, right?
Yeah.
It's great fun to see the new rules, and you're like, oh, I wonder how this works on the table. Awesome. The best thing that happened to me is after I played a couple games with Michael and you and got my ass handed to me a few times.
Yeah.
I had another friend who was just getting into the game at the same time.
Yeah.
And we played a bunch of games. We
Good.
started with our starter sets. We did a lot of 10-order lists without hackers. And each time one of us found a new unit that had a new thing, infiltration or ODD or camo or TO camo, and we're adding these new things, every time it's like, that's so cool.
Right.
How do I do that?
Okay.
So you go find your unit profile that has that or something similar to it.
Right.
And you say, great, now how do I use it? Right? You've seen somebody else put it on the table. They were able to annihilate your link team with a TO boarding shotgun because you've never seen that before. So you ran your link team up. And you're like, all right, I need a TO boarding shotgun, obviously.
Why does everyone have one of these? Yeah.
So then you put it on the table and you realize your opponent's not going to run his link team up to the middle of the table. And you're like, man, this sucks. It's really expensive. So you need to go through that process, right? Seeing things that are amazing, hating them, loving them, going back and forth, and you eventually figure out the things that work really well for you.
And I think, so going on to WGC Infinity or going onto the forums and researching and spending your time, you know, when you're at work and you're at your computer and you're supposed to be working but we both know you're not, go on the wiki if your computer system will allow you. Yeah. Go on the forums and read through some stuff. Post some things. Post to WC Infinity. Hey, I'm a new guy, gal, and this is what I'm doing. This is kind of what I'm looking at. Do you have any ideas for me? Here's one guy I was just listening to White Noise, and Don Cochran was on, and Don Cochran out of Philly, and Don is only been doing this a year, and he reached out to me kind of early on because Morats were his thing, and I wrote a couple things about it. So we've been talking like his entire Infinity career.
Awesome.
And then to hear him and his exposition on the White Noise podcast about it, and him have those experiences that are so different than mine, and find things that work that don't work for me, and vice versa. And that part of that is because of the way the game works. My experiential evidence is most applicable. Things that you're like, this will always work well for you. I can never get that to work, and it can be the most rad piece of tech on the game table.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to just play with profiles and see what works for you, because you'll be amazed.
Yeah. Like
people think Captain America is amazing. In U.S. Ariadne?
Unknown Ranger?
Unknown Ranger? They're like, oh, that guy's amazing. He does so many cool things.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's cool, man. I don't know how he works, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Play him.
That's great.
You like it? Play it, man. We're going to do some of that tonight, actually. I think we're going to talk to. So other big things that we want to talk about when you're starting, I like what you're saying. Get a partner in crime who's starting with the same level you are, same time as you are. Get your buddy involved. Work together, tit for tat. Battle each other. Come back, talk with other people about it. Get more input. And that's how you kind of develop that initial piece. should you just jump in whole hog? Should you go buy 2 boxes of Quang Shi?
Well, I would say you should buy the entire army list,
Right.
like what is available. But
Yes.
you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. It's something you might be like, wow, that's ridiculous. This game is supposed to be cheap. You're right. This game is cheap. For about $300 to $500, you can buy the entire faction.
Yeah.
I am buying the 3 armies for $500 because I'm buying NA2.
Oh, fantastic.
All of it.
It's a good price.
Yeah.
It's sold.
I got a really good deal. Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
bought it from Frontline Gaming. I got 20% off.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but you can buy stuff in this game very cheaply. It's a very low buy-in level. It's not like certain other games. You're kind of giving like that's a very kind of War Machine-esque attitude towards it, which I know we usually say with like, but no, but that's when you have all the models and profiles at your hand, you can play with it and you can make subtle modifications and see what works for you.
Right. Swap out one unit for another.
Right.
And I think it's really applicable for Infinity because the missions add such a level of complexity.
Yeah,
right?
good
where
point.
you might have one where you're dominating zones. You don't need specialists. But then your next army, you might need a lot of specialists. There might be buttons to press all over the middle of the table, and you need a bunch of infiltrators, right? If you've bought, the JSA list we're going to look at in a moment.
Yeah.
There's no infiltrators. And,
There is. There's an Oniwaba in there.
Okay, there's one.
Because if you make a JSA list of Oniwaba, I think you're missing out.
You got one specialist in that list.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I came prepared.
Okay.
So, well, and I'm at 2.5 SWC, so I'm pretty sure somebody's like raising up a effigy of me that they're burning.
That's fair.
SWC light can't possibly win. But yeah, so I'm sorry, I got lost. Because I started thinking about this. I didn't want to think about my JSA list yet.
Sorry. I
But-
got carried away.
So did I. But so yes. But one of the things we wanted to kind of talk about was work towards. You were talking about missions and mission applicability.
Yeah.
Work just towards limited insertion lists. They're 10 order lists.
Yes.
That if you decide to go to the tournament scenes, which I highly recommend, after you've got about half a dozen games under your belt, when you start to kind of get some things going, only play 10 orders. Don't ever do more. Go in there. It'll let you focus in a way that a lot of people will not be able to. Your games will be over quicker, not because you're newer and dying earlier, but simply because you're making moves. You're making 20 to 50% fewer moves.
Yeah.
That'll give you more time to kind of consider your options. I think
Right.
10 order lists are probably the place to hang out at for a while. And with Interplanetary pushing the 10 order list because they want to make times like they didn't last year. Another interesting thing, what I was thinking about when you were talking about missions and the mission applicability, was that Heloise said that the 3 most popular game or tournament ITS missions played are Frontline, Firefight, and Highly Classified. So 2 of those are killing positional missions.
Yeah.
One of those is a massively specialist-driven mission. So you could offset those 2 and have one list that is very specialist-heavy and one list that is very kill-heavy. And you will be fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Great.
You've created a 2-list format. You can walk into that, feel proud of what you've done, and you go in there and you are going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to learn a lot about that army, and you're going to learn about a lot of armies that you had never met before. And that's why I love tournaments.
Yeah.
And people are cool.
Oh, I've never had a bad experience at a tournament overall.
I've had as many hugs as I've had bad experiences.
Okay.
And my bad experiences ended in hugs. And that's the way they should.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I squirt a tear every time I think about it.
Cool.
The so we're 10 order list. Now let's look at I've heard other people talk about like, look, I built, you build a 10 order list. Do whatever you want. Make sure you max out your SWC because you can't even play this game if you don't max out your SWC. I'm going to tell you there are certainly armies that utilize their SWC and rely on that maybe more than others.
If I were going to play Pano, I won't put an army on the table without less than 5.5. There's no way.
And
they need their HMGs. They don't have any smoke. Or
they
any
need their
warbands.
Spitfires. They need high burst, high damage, dominating weapons.
Right.
Completely understandable.
JSA, bunch of swords.
And people were like, well, it's CC. It's really not that great. And I'm like, I've been playing Morats, and I've been playing CC heavy armies now for the last year. And when they're not expecting it, and you can put a CC heavy armor in front of somebody, all of a sudden your 8-inch range is completely dominated, and they're terrified. It's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get ridiculous things happen, like happened to me. I put Senior Massacre against a Marut, and the Marut punched Senior Massacre twice in the face.
Oh, I had
Which is ridiculous.
a game last week where Oni Waban snuck up on a Xian,
right.
and the Xian won the roll.
The Shin is not terrible.
Oh, no, he's
in
not
CC.
terrible. But, surprise attack, you think I'd lose, but I didn't. It was great.
It's that dice. It's that one dice roll. I mean, it's always
Yes.
more iffy. But so we're doing 10 orders. Stick to that. If you can max out your SWC and it serves a purpose for you, then I say go for it. There's lots of opportunities in several armies that I can think of that don't need that.
Yeah.
Assassins, Morats, JSA are probably the 3 that I can think of off the top of my head that require very little in SWC commitment, because they're going to do trade-offs for SWC light weaponry like viral, monofilament, grenades, chain rifles,
great.
mines.
Let's scale it back a bit before we get too much into SWC. I think one of the things to consider as a newer player is hacking. I don't think is too difficult, but I think it is something that is worth mostly keeping off the table for a while, because it adds a whole set of new vectors to worry about.
That's a good point.
Which also can mean that heavy infantry and tags can be a little more difficult to manage if you're not using hacking. And so getting those medium infantry link teams that get a lot of mimetism or MSV and have kind of modifier bonuses can be a really good way to start.
Right.
That being said, I did build a tag list and for one of our samples, but
I've got a dual tag list that I brought.
it's beautiful.
They're little tiny tags though.
But I guess the point is, as you're getting into the game, there are so many rules, and hacking adds a whole nother level of dynamic to it.
Right.
That just having that piece absent is okay. You can play missions really well without hackers. The only way that it comes to bite you in the ass is if you've got a classified objective that needs hacking.
And maybe early on, you're not even concerned about that. Honestly, I'm maybe for early play 200 points.
Yeah.
I think 150 steals a lot of thunder. I think 200 is manageable for most.
Yeah.
For most people who have experience gaming. So I think 200 points, 3 SWC, whatever. 10 orders lets people. Most everybody can fill something out. Then I think that's a very nice, easy realm to do that. That being said, I don't even know how to think in 200 point realms.
No.
I've just been so geared towards 300 for so long, but that's part of the exercise, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which was to make myself think in other ways, and I failed.
That's fair.
So,
Guerrilla Games Miniatures. One of the best things they've produced is the Infinity Recon. It's a great way to start out, right? I think it's 150 points, and they take out some characters and limit warbands and heavy infantry. And that's a really good way to start. It's on a smaller table, less stuff. You're not worrying as much about HMGs and sniper rifles just because the table's smaller, so it's a lot of getting used to maneuvering and outmaneuvering your opponent.
Right, and that's a good point. So understanding how important movement is in this game, and in a way that it, there are nods to it in other games, and there are uses for it in other games, but in this game it is absolutely dominating.
Oh yeah.
Okay, do we have anything else for starters before we start thinking about? I guess maybe overarching is to understand. I believe in going into list building with a theme in mind.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that resonates with a lot of people. I think they were like, look, I really want to play this list. I really want to play Samurais and Ninjas. I want Samurais and Ninjas. That's all I want in life.
Wonderful thing to do.
It makes me happy. I've got a wonderful paint scheme. They're all black.
Cool. Easy.
And it's done.
Yeah.
Whatever it needs to be. The other thing is, we should probably talk about sectorial versus vanilla.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
So our meta is very heavily skewed towards the sectorial range.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's that much different than other places, but
I don't think so either.
I mean, then we've got like one of the best vanilla combined players in the world.
Yeah.
In our general meta too. So, and we like him because he throws stuff at us. We're just kind of like, wow, man, we just really didn't see that coming. Yeah. And I think that's what the strength of a vanilla player is, that if they're good, they can be like, wow, I didn't expect you to bring that.
Yeah.
Huh. And you made it work. Yeah.
I had some success with vanilla nomads, and that was my experience. Is that I was able to bring a lot of different tools that
Yeah.
you wouldn't see in a sectorial, and so people weren't always ready for it or able to react to it well.
The only time I've successfully played vanilla is with Aleph.
Yeah.
But that's, for me, so much of it is about the theme, and it just, Aleph is one of those ones that it makes sense when it's in vanilla to me. Combined makes sense when it's in vanilla to me. It's harder for things to make sense to me when I get like Hakazam, and I've got this like just motley crew of people showing up to work.
Yeah.
And I could never make that work. Vanilla Hawk, and I really wanted it to because I love the bikers. I'm a big biker fan.
That's fair. Did they get a sectorial ever?
They
Will
do.
That happen?
Oh no, they've got one.
Cool.
They've got one.
Sounds great.
And they're the Mongol tribes. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I may have an opportunity to work with the Mongols this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
In real life, I'm very excited.
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah. My boss said they all look like Mongols too.
Okay.
Like you would expect them to look. I was like,
Right.
that's cool. What do you mean by that, sir? He's like, they look exactly like you think they do. Okay.
All right.
Gotcha. The
I
yeah.
guess something when you're thinking about a theme, right? When you're building a list, when you're building an army, the two things that I would say are the most important to think about. What's the coolest motherfucker you want to bring to the table?
That's fair.
And what are the missions?
Sure.
Yeah.
This list is a has only a certain set of missions in mind.
That's fair.
This is going to be about frontline, I
Yeah.
think, in firefight.
No, that makes sense. It looks like it.
Yeah, it does.
Should we talk about the list and then
we should talk about one last thing about sectorials. I think we should talk about, and you brought it up earlier before pre-show, was we should talk about link teams.
Great.
So in general, link teams are the benefit of a sectorial. Some people believe that you should not even introduce that additional rules level. And they're also the same people who advocate using vanilla and learning vanilla first and then being able to do other things. And I understand that.
Yeah.
But the theme, the story-driven gamer in me, to which may surprise people because I'm so tournament-focused, just fucking rails against that.
Yeah.
It's like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, I do want this little team of guys to work together. And, coming from my background, it's like, it makes sense that I want guys who have trained together to go achieve objectives.
And it's great fun. And
there's a lot to learn.
yeah.
It is an added level of complexity, but you are going to run into it. And until you lose and figure out why you don't move everybody in a group, which doesn't make any sense in the real world, and they get hit by one missile launcher, which makes perfect sense in the real world, that you learn how to take apart link teams and then how not to use them yourself.
Yeah. I guess the thing with link teams is they add a number of bonuses to the unit, right?
Right.
And you look at those right off the bat. +1 burst, fantastic. You got a 5-man link, +3 BS.
Do it.
That's a great thing.
Yep.
And especially on a cheaper unit, right?
Yes.
Fusiliers are my bread and butter for that link, and they are amazing. BS-12 becomes BS-15. Now you got a 15-point missile launcher, and he's shooting at BS-15.
You could
It's
take
great.
50 points of 5 combi rifle fusiliers, and you're still, people malign this like it's not good, but you're still a damage 13 putting out 4 shots on a BS-15 base.
Yeah.
That is a solid chunk that will do work. BS-12 is a premium in every other army.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to talk about Pano here in a minute, because it probably, if you like the aesthetic at all, if you like the concept behind it, if you're Australian, you should probably get into Pano at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting
They're
rid of my
great fun.
Pano.
I love Pano.
It's understandable. I have so many of you guys who love Pano in the area. I'm never going to play it.
That's fair.
You can't play what they're playing. I got to show them something different.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to put together some lists, and we've got some lists that we've been working on very frantically to kind of show you guys, hey, look, if you're going to go to a tournament, you could do worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I swear you could do worse.
Yes.
Um,
Just look at our list and remember, I probably shouldn't do that.
I don't feel it, man. That's very nice of you. So, so the first one we're going to look at is, okay, so you got a mission, you're going to play a buddy, you're like, look, dude, this new JSA box, it's super sweet hotness. And I go, yeah, man, that's really cool. And you're like, let's play something cool like Firefight, which is one of my favorite missions.
Okay.
You push some buttons.
Yeah.
Very limited button pushing.
And you kill a bunch of stuff.
You kill a bunch of stuff.
That's the best part.
That's the most engaging.
As a Pano player and a Steel Phalanx player,
Right.
that's my favorite
You
part.
get some AD help. Like
yeah.
There's good missions. Anyway, Firefight is about moving up. There's objectives across the middle. This list actually can take care of that.
Yeah.
Even though you laughed at me because I only brought one specialist.
Oh, no. You know.
So it can take care of that, and then it can get up and kill stuff, which is really great. It could also work for any kind of like zonal domination mission like Supremacy or Quadrant Control or Frontline, because it's efficient enough that it's going to be moving up the table, and because it's so short range, you're really going to want to move up the table. Well, as we talk about this, we'll talk about a couple other things like what you do if you win the roll to go first, what you do if you are going second, because those need to be built. Those concepts need to be built into your list.
Yes.
Have an idea what your models are going to do, as you said pre-show, but then understand what your stance is when you go first, what your stance is in general when you go second.
Yeah.
So this one I brought Oyama because I was like, you know what, Samurai, it's really cool. I'm not bringing somebody to, I'm not bringing a chain of command Kamputai in here, but I brought Oyama as a lieutenant because he's just a boss. If you guys look at his stuff at all, I mean, he's just critting like half the time. He can hit anything. He's pretty epic. If you're going at somebody who will only do 1 point of damage to him in CC, you might as well and you might have any choice. You may want to berserk and just automatically nuke him, which is cool. Yeah. You see here, we've got a couple of Domaru, a Domaru Spitfire, a Tonko to finish out the link and to kind of drive some points down, although it's not really necessary. And then I brought Musashi Harris with 2 more Tonko because you need that for the Harris. So this is extremely efficient, right? I can move a couple of with only a couple orders, I can move most of my list up the board, and then I start with an Oniwaban way up the board and Saito way up the board. So this is an extremely order efficient list. Everything is where it either needs to be for a zonal domination list, or I can get it there super fast. No one's going to want to get within a certain range of anything that I'm doing. Musashi is going to dice everything up. Oyama is going to dice everything up. And Onawaban is going to dice stuff up. Saito's going to dice. Pretty much there's a lot of like Miyamoto, Iron Chef list work going on. Yeah. You may notice, you're like, look, man, you have a ton of chain rifles. I know. So this list is designed to go first, to hit really hard. If it going against another 10-order list, you will evaporate 2 to 3 orders by the end of turn 1. That is the general goal of this list. Create an order deficiency in your opponent as fast as possible, and then move your links up, get them into a position, but really plan yourself to go towards that second and third turn, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You have 18 wounds in this 10-order list, and even though one's NWI. But you have a lot of orders here. They've got to chew through some stuff. You've got decent wounds. You have these guys, if you don't know, almost all of them are highish physique. You're talking. I mean, the Onawaban's the lowest, which is funny.
Yeah.
But you've got a great physique, so dodging is a perfectly acceptable thing. If you go second, what you do is you pretty much go prone, force them to come into a chain rifle range of yours, dodge, engage, or dodge, and concede a lot of space. But what you'll notice is anytime somebody else is moving up the field and you've conceded a lot of space, very infrequently will they be able to mass any models on your side, and you will just, as you come back, you will be able to just eviscerate them one-on-one much more efficiently than if you had gone first.
Okay. So would you prefer to go first with this list?
So I've been talking with Michael about his concepts of using JSA, and I am such an alpha striker that it is hard for me to ratchet that back. I'm a product of my upbringing, and I'm very much Cobra Kai. Yeah. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy.
Well, that's fair.
But if I were to go, what I had to learn when I was playing Morats, because my Morats lists look very similar, is to just sit back and wait for things to happen.
Yeah.
And then as the battlefield expands, you're able to chew off large chunks of it. And I think this list does that really well. You do have Saito to provide smoke very accurately where you want it. And yeah, you can do. I think this is a super fun list. Just ninjas and samurai.
Yeah.
But so we were talking about if you're gonna go first, if you're gonna go second, right? In Oniwaban, I have rules that I live by in Infinity. If you win the roll and you're going against a JSA player, a US Ariadne player, or a Hakagazam assassin player, I'm less worried about Speculo, but it's Ceph player for certain because they get 2 of those chicks.
Yeah.
You just go first. You go first because you need to break. You do not want to be stuck in you don't want to be trapped in your deployment zone.
Right.
And you're going to get trapped by superior infiltrating or impersonating troops or inferior infiltrating heavy flamethrower grunts.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to control that initial pace. And if your whole first turn is just designed breaking you out and you really don't get very far, you could do worse. Because now, while you only have 2 turns to do that, he's reduced his striking capability at some point.
Yeah.
So, but I could do either one in this list. I feel comfortable enough with my skills now to feel okay where I could go either way.
Okay. If you were taking this list against someone who was not playing limited insertion, who had 16, 17 orders, how would you feel about it then?
I'd still feel okay. So, I mean, when I say just like hide everything, that's not really what I mean. So oftentimes when people set up their AROs, so we're going to get into the Agima example that I know you love.
Yeah.
So they set up their AROs to do across the field.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to hit this. I've got this lane. I'm going to cover this lane with a MSR sniper or a TR bot.
Let's take my TR bot, put it on top of a table. It can see the whole thing.
Yep. And it's going to
great.
And
building
it's going to get
on top of a building.
Right.
See the whole table.
It's going to get surprise shot off at the first turn. And if you're a new player, TR bots are fantastic.
Oh yeah.
If you're a seasoned player, they're still a pain in the ass and they still create problems.
Yeah.
If you want to play with that order in there. If you play combined army, you're in a much better position than anybody else.
Oh yeah.
But ideally what you want to do is set up your AROs so that they are only visible at their optimal ranges. So anybody moving up the table, maybe they get to move out of their deployment zone. Maybe they move 16 inches. Maybe they move 24 inches. But when they get to 32, they've got to now deal with a double shot Tonka with Flamen Spear.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
When they get to 16, they've got to deal with my contender. Right? And this is the guy I leave out for ARO in that place. But I only leave him out to ARO where I can see at 32 inches. I don't let him see 48 inches. Right? The Spitfire guy is hanging out at 24 inches. Yeah. The chain rifle guys are searching out, and they're covering corners so that, some AD troop doesn't come in. That's what you have to do. The Flash Pulse here on Miyamoto is probably the longest range in this entire list. With some consistency because he's got a whip 15.
That was wonderful. Yeah.
But you put him out at 24 inches, and you let him maybe cover a range band at 24 inches. If you want to do that. I wouldn't do that. But the Tonko is going to survive longer, I think.
Yeah.
But that's a big piece of the ARO package is understanding where your ranges are. Now, something you do and you learned, would you talk about your Agima example?
So, I wanted to use Achilles because he's really cool and, just murders face. And so I found that I used him a couple times, and my opponents would be able to bring pieces that could either get around the fact that he had BS-15 or get around the fact that he had ODD with things like flamethrowers, chain rifles, getting into close combat, because a warband unit that costs 5 points, locking down Achilles for an order or two, that's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And so what I found was really useful is if I started thinking about the board laterally, so I was looking at my deployment zone as a lane to lock down, and you can use an MSV2 sniper, put it way on the other side as Achilles, and have that sniper watch Achilles. So now if you want to deal with that sniper, you have to get a model all the way to my side of the table. So you either need to bring a drop troop to actually get it behind the Agima.
Well, what you're saying is the Agima is not visible to any other side of the board.
Right. Maybe up to the halfway point somewhere. Maybe it's looking 12 inches outside of my deployment zone, but I'm not looking at the other half of the table at all.
Right.
because now if you want to engage it, you have to bring a model to my side of the table before you can even see it, which means you have to spend 2 or 3 orders to get that unit up the table.
Right.
Or you have to surprise shot it with an infiltrator.
Right.
Which, if it's Atalanta, that's not great odds, right? Because she's base BS 17 with her spot bot.
Right.
And so even if you're giving her a penalty, she'll be fine, probably, unless I roll a 20 and then just fucked anyway.
Well, that's only good for armor.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. And so thinking about the table that way, using a TR bot to look across your deployment zone instead of out means that you are locking down your deployment zone really well.
That's what I did against my armor at Arizona Armageddon 2, and it stopped his Fide from being able to engage, from being able to hit me more than 3 models. That's I had brought like 17 models, so I didn't care. But
yeah, and it's when you're thinking about the table that way,
yeah,
right? If you're looking at your opponent's deployment zone, you're looking at how do I stop him from getting out. Your opponent is always going to be at the advantage because on the active turn, you're rolling more dice.
Good point.
Right? And rolling more dice at better numbers is how you win rolls.
Right.
So even if you've got a TR bot, you can get a linked HMG, you're rolling 5 dice, you're at +3 BS. Right. You're going to beat the TR bot, or you'd surprise shot it with an intruder through smoke, and then it just can't do anything. It just sits there and watches as you murder it.
Right.
But if you think about protecting your side of the table first, concede the other half, that's okay. It doesn't matter, right? They move up closer. Fantastic. Now you're closer for me to kill you.
Right. So I will say that after our discussion on this is months ago that you've been working with this, it did change the way that I played. So that when I went to Rumble and played Vanilla Aleph, I would do the same thing with my proxy MSR.
Oh, yeah.
And use it. You know, people know it's out there. They think it's going to be in some special place. The only time I screwed this stuff up is actually when I played Michael and Obadiah, which I somehow became a moron about. But when I played other people, I was like, I'm going to do this where I'm going to look at my table half, and as things move forward, I'm going to jump on them from there.
Yeah.
And that was generally ended up working better. They're usually... there's a good point. There's a lot of psychological effects in this game, and one of those, is TO hidden models in general. But when they get close and they get within striking range, everybody, their blood pumps up. They get laser focus, and then you throw in all of a sudden a TO guy starts to shoot him in the back when he tries to do something. It can never be in his back because he's moving 360 when he moves, but all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm everything I was going to do is now, instead he's facing 2 arrows, and people just lock up. Most people just lock up instead of just understanding they're going to concede that model that they've just spent 5-6 orders making do what they think they want it to do.
Yeah, it can be very discouraging. I guess the other piece of that, though, is a savvy player can use that opportunity. If you've conceded half the table right off the bat, they can litter mines and warbands all across the midline, and then that becomes much more difficult to take.
You will see that happen with specific builds and specific like Ryukin 7. Is it 9? Thank you. Is it 7 in the movie?
I don't
Section
know
9, Section 7. I think it's Section anyway.
Section 7.
I think it's Section. So in the movie, or the Ryukins, they'll do that. When you get a lot of US Ariadna, you can do that. Murph can do that really well. Yeah. Anybody with a large skirmisher mine laying presence will do that. Some of my Morat lists, I'll just litter the field with mines. But that player has to be savvy enough to understand what they're using their turn to do.
Yes. And
sometimes you don't even need to do anything the first turn. Sometimes you just need to control some zone and create some. I've talked about this before on this cast, but it's defense in depth, and you want to create. Think about this World War I. You had trenches, and you had a no man's land between trenches, and that was littered with mines and tripwires, and difficult areas to terrain or to cross. And then you've got more lines that they have to, more trenches they have to cross, and then more trenches, and eventually there's a headquarters way in the back. Right. But you got to create those different levels and force them to maneuver through it, and that will chew them up. And if you've conceded a turn to do that, but then they spend the next 2 turns trying to screw with that stuff, you have a much better chance to engage everything on your own terms.
Yeah.
And if any of your defenses killed something, you just won. I mean, you won a lot more than they lost.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's this list. This list is designed, like I said, to be very visceral.
Mm-hmm.
This list is designed to make you feel good because you cut something in half.
Does everything in that list have martial arts? Yeah.
Every single thing in this list, everything in this list has stealth. I just want to put that out.
That's wonderful.
It's
It's a great way to get past hacking.
it cares nothing for any of that. Yes. There's a lot of fun stuff here. I see this as being one of those lists that like a new player would be like, I dig everything about that.
Oh yeah.
I want to get up and I want because they don't understand the engagement of shooting really.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just want to get up and chop stuff. Just if you have a 40K player, this is a great 40K player list, I think. They would be like, this is everything I love.
Everybody's got katanas.
Everybody's got katanas. Yes. So that was kind of an idea. Where do you want to go from here? What list did you want to look at after this one?
Let's look at Hector.
Okay, so we're going to look at the Hector list. Bam.
So my thought here was, we're starting from, let's not get into hacking yet.
Yep.
Let's stick things to 10 orders.
Yep.
And kind of like you, I want some models that can really just punch people in the face, right? Hector is fantastic for that. Martial arts level 4, CC 23. The only thing in the army that's better at close combat than him is Achilles. And that's it.
He's about the same points.
Yeah.
But he gives you 2 orders.
Right. So he's got Strategos. He's in the link team, so you can still use his lieutenant order because of Strategos.
He doesn't have any visual modifiers, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But
it is.
Which one did you take? You took the right one, I guess.
Yeah, plasma rifle.
So you take the plasma rifle with him for a reason.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing funnier than hitting 3 guys with a single shot.
At 32 inches.
At 32 inches.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's fair.
I generally am not as big a fan of Thurakatai and Hector as Myrmidons because ODD is amazing. But, you know.
So at the Las Vegas Open, I had 2 of the 300 packs.
Yeah.
I saved those and I gave those away to the last place person in each one of my 2 tournaments that I ran.
Okay.
The reason for that is that pack, which includes Hector and Myrmidons, I believe Steel Phalanx is probably one, like, while it's rich with rules,
yeah,
it is probably the easiest army for new players to get into.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's so forgiving.
Yeah. You've got a bunch of guys with 2 wounds,
right,
a lot of guys with no wound incapacitation.
Right.
Half the army has ODD, which
right,
is a wonderful equalizer. You can be at bad ranges and still give somebody else a -6 penalty, and so you can just kind of go for it.
Yes.
And you're going to win a lot of those rolls.
Right.
It does mean your units are often more expensive, which if you're doing 10 orders, is totally fine.
Right, because I actually have trouble filling my 10 order lists at times.
Right.
Because I don't have enough points.
Right. But then you pop Hector in and boom.
Ah,
you're
right.
300 points.
So
So I did Hector with Thurakatai Link. He's got an HMG because having a long range gun is always useful.
right.
It's not my favorite HMG, but
No.
Steel Phalanx doesn't get very many.
He's armed 3 though.
Yeah. He's arm 3, he can survive. BS-12 is not bad. He has no visual modifiers, so that linked 5-man link team he might have a hard time against, but
right,
he can crack some targets pretty well. I put the engineer in Hector's link because the biggest danger for Hector is getting hit by an EM weapon or a hacker, and being able to bring him back from immobilized or isolated is really useful.
Yeah.
And then the forward observer, because he's a specialist. He's got flash pulse, which is real useful to have on a Whip 13 model in a link team. So
yep,
if you need to set him up for an ARO.
And 360 visor helps too.
Oh yeah,
yep,
it's beautiful.
Cool.
So that link team is kind of designed to be...
So that's this 4, by the way,
right,
guys, which
4.
is the Animatarkos rule here. Fire team Animatarkos is... It means you can only put 4 models in a link team in Steel Phalanx. I'm sure you knew that, but we're trying to make this more for the newer players.
I'll be honest.
Yeah, so do I.
So Hector is wonderful because he can form a link team with any Thurakatai or any Myrmidons. All this includes characters, or any Dactyls.
It's a lot of options.
It's all the options. I mean, it's all of the link options. He's got them all.
It's okay. If I had to choose, I'd be a Trojan over
That's fair.
Over a Greek anyway. So
yeah, it's all right. So that link team I see as
Eric Ban is my boy.
Oh Oh, he is fantastic.
I
I
do
love
love
painting Hector because he is Eric Bana
Right.
in future powered armor.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Which he needed because he
Yes.
got his ass whooped.
He did. But, that's how Homer wrote it, so it had to happen.
It's a had to happen.
This one, he did not get his ass whooped by Achilles because they're apparently buddies now in the future of Aleph.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know how I feel about that, but okay.
It is what it is. They probably compete or something.
More stories about that I want to hear. I want to hear more about
true.
that on Myrmidon Wars.
Yeah. They gotta, someday, Corvus Belli, speaking to you now,
Carlos.
find an animator. Give us Myrmidon Wars.
Yeah.
I'm into that cartoon.
I would be down for that.
American G.I. Joe, but Myrmidons.
I've been watching this cartoon with my kid called Total Drama. It's about Total Drama Island. It only started in 2015. It has like 7 seasons. It doesn't even work that way, right? I mean, it's seasons a year.
Make any sense.
The movie, it's still in the future, I guess.
Okay.
But no, there's like 45 episodes. I'm like, hire those people. Those people can crank out some episodes. Let's do that.
I love it. Oh, that sounds great.
Anyway, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So this link team. My idea is this is my late game link team.
Oh, really?
So they're gonna move out later, right? The Thurakatai are a little slower, so I'm not gonna try to move real aggressively with them because they're gonna have a hard time getting to my opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah.
They have no smoke. Hector really is gonna have a hard time cracking those big hefty arrow pieces because he's at +0 out to 32 inches.
Fair enough.
But when you've got stuff in the middle of the table, he's got stun grenades that he can use. He's got that plasma rifle, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of options. The HMG can help him advance, but I see that as a late game attack piece.
Okay, cool.
The next
Because I think people are going to look at that big model and I think they're going to say, I
Right.
need to put this big model. That's a new player thing too, by the way.
Yes.
And not to say that we don't get caught up in it as well, because
absolutely.
you have a big awesome
Yeah.
and you want to take this big awesome and go Rambo it up the field.
Yeah.
But you hold Hector in reserve and people, that's actually a great psychological, has a great psychological impact because they're
he's
like,
an obvious target right away.
still know that after I have to deal with these Myrmidons that are a total pain in the ass, that this big a-hole is coming down the pipe.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing worse than a big a-hole down the pipe.
Right.
So,
Any pipe.
any pipe. It doesn't work that way. It is a pipe.
That's right.
So instead we switch to
the Myrmidon link.
Right.
So this is my initial attack group. So I've got Eudoros, who is just kind of a dick. He's BS-13. He's got ODD. He has a Mark 12, which is like a Spitfire, but 1 less burst and 1 more damage.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But that burst is made up for by the link.
Right. So he's in a 4-man and
Right.
a Matargos link, and he is a Myrmidon, but he's a character Myrmidon, so we can link with the other ones.
Right.
And he uses that Mark 12, much like you would see a Spitfire, but he's BS-13 with ODD. So anybody shooting back at him is at a -6 penalty unless they have multispectral visor,
Right.
in which case they're really expensive, so it's okay.
Right.
You just kill them.
They're actually the same cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then he has this really cool thing, Eclipse Grenades, which means that if he is out of range, you're looking at a missile launcher,
Yeah.
it's okay. You just throw some Eclipse Grenades, get up to a range that is good for you, and then engage.
It's physique 13, so he's throwing on 16s.
Yeah.
In his
2 dice.
Yeah, 2 dice.
It's wonderful. So he's the main attack piece in this link team.
Got it.
And he has no wounding cap, so as long as you don't run into surprise sniper rifles with shock, you should be okay. You can take that odd crit and keep trucking through. And then I've got a Myrmidon officer with him with a boarding shotgun and Eclipse Grenades.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's got chain of command, so if somebody does manage to get to Hector with a Fide and somehow beat him in CC,
Happens.
could happen.
Certainly could happen.
Then you have
Not great odds, but yeah.
this other link team on the other side of your deployment zone.
Right.
That this guy becomes your lieutenant, so you're not lost lieutenant. You're not running around headless as an army.
Right.
And then 2 chain rifle guys.
They're important.
They're very important. They're 16 points.
Yes.
So they're my cheapest. My cheapest models in. Oh no, I guess there's one Thurakatai cheaper. They're pretty cheap.
They're really cheap.
The reason they're there is because Eudoros has number 2, which means whenever a link team is broken, Eudoros becomes the link leader. The link team doesn't fall apart. He takes control and is in charge.
Yeah.
And so what happens is you can get up to a model that's around a corner. It's a real big threat. It's got shock something. It's a link team, whatever it is. You take one of those chain rifle Myrmidons. You run it around the corner. Now your opponent has the option. I either dodge this chain rifle
Right.
and have to face you spending more orders on the chain rifle.
Right.
Or I shoot it, and I get hit by a burst 2 chain rifle.
Right.
If that Myrmidon dies, Eudoros becomes the link leader. I still got a 3-man link. I can keep doing that all day. Things are looking great. If they dodge, then I shoot them with a pistol.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you got into base to base with them on the first move.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is ideally what you want to do, because you want to present your opponent so many bad ARO options that they don't know what to do. And then you get the opposite ARO if you just want to throw a 16-point guy away.
Yeah.
But that's totally legit. But the other thing that's important about them is then they have smoke grenades.
Yes.
Which
so
are
they can advance.
So but the smoke grenades are important if you want to use a long-range attacking piece like Atalanta.
So Atalanta is there because she is the best BS in the game currently. With her
even over Margot.
Yeah, technically.
Margot's.
That's fair.
Technically, is the only thing that matters.
Yeah. So Atalanta is a BS 14 model, but she has this cool spot bot that brings her up to 17. And with a sniper rifle, she's only burst 2. But you throw some smoke down with one of those chain rifle Myrmidons, and you've got Atalanta shooting through smoke. And that means she's giving any opponents without Sixth Sense, without MSV.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Beautiful. Giving them a -6 penalty to shoot back. So not only is she rolling 2 dice at BS 17, but now you're shooting back at -6. She's going to be able to take out a lot of targets really effectively that way. Right. And so she's wonderful. I find that for the most part, when I have a model like that, what ends up happening is my opponents see it and they leave less things out to ARO, which is fine with me because then I can run Myrmidons up.
It's a great point. I think when TOC, which is the Russian sectorial, comes out, that particular situation is going to happen a lot more.
Yeah. Since
Spetsnaz are the best counter ARO threat in the game, hands down, Carlos. And who disagrees with me about how impactful Spetsnaz are. Yeah. And that's fine. He's in the company. I'm not. Yeah. But once you see that, people are going to keep their heads down, and that's going to allow you to move your CC heavy models, your dog warriors up that
really fast.
God, they suck.
Yeah.
They're so frustrating. Or that you've got your antipode packs, which also are super frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that's my list. I got specialists.
And you have a dactyl doctor, which we forgot.
Yeah.
She's just there to bring these guys back.
Be a doctor. This list can do most missions.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a hacker, so if you're looking at one with a lot of classified objectives, it might be at a disadvantage, but both link teams have a specialist. So as you're moving a heavy attack piece up, you're bringing a specialist along with them.
Right.
You got a lot of points that you can use to occupy different quadrants if you're doing a quadrant control or is Frontline the one with the 3 zones? I don't remember. Whatever.
Frontline is one of the 3 zones, the most points.
Yeah.
Historically, still Phalanx does a great job with that one too because it's so order efficient.
Yes.
What I love about the Dactyl Doctor, I never really noticed before, is it has the adhesive launcher, Nimbus grenades.
Yeah.
But the adhesive launcher on a Doctor, you never see that. It's always the engineer model. This is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's BS-12. I didn't realize it either.
Oh, they're pretty good.
Breaker pistols are this,
Of course, they cost 10 points more than everybody else's Doctor, so.
It has a lot of kit though.
Yeah, it
has a lot of kit.
And it has Dogged, which has saved my ass a number of times when I get that second shot at the objective.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I think she's legit.
Yeah.
And she's the buff one, right?
The Dactyl Doctor is actually the dude with the 2 pistols. Who's not Akmon.
Got it.
The engineer is the
I like her, man. She's been in the gym. She's been doing some CrossFit.
Yeah.
She looks like she's great at snatches. Yeah. That's one of my favorite female models. What?
Fair enough.
I mean that. All right, so this one, what's great about this list is this is a great introductory list. You buy the Steel Phalanx box, which is like $100. You buy it doesn't have Thoracitai in that box.
Yeah, it has 3. It doesn't have the HMG one.
So what? You proxy it.
You can proxy it. You buy Hector. He's a cheap blister.
He's in that box.
Oh, and the steel. Oh yeah, the big army box. Yeah. So you'll have. Will you have everything except? Yeah, I think you'll have everything
except for Atlanta.
Okay.
She's not in that box, right?
I don't know.
I think Agima's in that box, but you could proxy that too.
That's fair. Yeah.
So anyway, you buy that one box. It's a good box. You may need to buy 1 or 2 other models, but this is a really cheap entry point. This is a very solid list. It gives you 2 link teams to work with. It gives you several 1, 2, 3 uteruses and a specialist, right?
No.
4 specialists that can cover most of your stuff here. The only thing you can't do is the 2 hacking and classifieds.
Yeah.
This is a great, just all around. It can play any mission relatively well.
Yeah.
This is just a solid piece of kit. All right, this is the kind of list that any day of the week you could grab this list and go play anything you showed up to do.
Right.
Yeah. It's easy to travel with because there's only 10 models.
Well, 12, 13.
Yeah, you're right.
If you include the spot bot as a model.
No, well, whatever. You can shove those guys in your pocket. Who cares if they break? It's just big, stupid ears, though.
Oh, it's an adorable little bunny.
Yeah.
You put it down.
Oh, they're all rabbits. I don't know why they're all rabbits.
I don't know. The Marut,
It's
even.
an Aleph is a weird
Big
rabbit.
rabbit.
Oh, I hope they resculpt that guy.
I don't know. I like that model.
I don't like the
I don't know why it's got the sword out, but I like the double arms.
I like the double arms.
Yeah.
I agree, but I don't know why it's a rabbit.
Antenna,
I understand aesthetically why it's a rabbit, right? Because it breaks up those lines, but I
Yeah.
don't understand why it's a rabbit.
Antenna for communicating with the AI.
Because it's Strategos level 3.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
great.
I think if you give it a crown, it'd be sick. Like a Sauron crown.
Yeah. I love it.
Conversion ideas. I don't know if that's real or not. All right, what do you want to look at next? What do we want to do?
Do you have one you want to take a look at?
Yeah, why not? Okay, so give me a second here.
You got something with tags?
Tags? Yeah. Nope, that's not it. Let me go back. That was a JSA one we just talked about. Let's do the Corregidor list. No, that's a blank.
Corregidor are pretty cool. They are. Oh, did you not save it?
No, I didn't save it.
Sad
It's
day.
okay. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Go back.
We can always look at.
No, it's already done.
There you go. You got it. Corregidor. I love Corregidor. They are
So do I.
space bandits. Just kind of jackasses who. It's like X-Force in space.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Deadpool's there, and he's got a bunch of jackasses with him with stupid powers, and they're just kind of a pain in the ass.
I thought you said XCOM,
No,
and I still went with it
that's fair.
because they're also jackasses, but they're on
Yeah,
Earth.
that's true.
So, no, I played Corregidor. My first Rumble I went to, I took Corregidor. It is probably the highest ranked army I ever played. And I was like, oh man, dude, I can actually win stuff. Like, I can win interactions more frequently
Okay.
with some of these optimized models. So, let's talk about with HSN3. We've the rankings spread amongst the armies is so much closer that the argument is almost pointless.
Yeah.
And I make that every time I play Morats.
Yeah.
So, what I did with this list is I said, you know what? I wanted this to be kind of just, how am I going to fill 300 points, which is not my favorite place with limited insertion. On several armies I'm not really happy with. I just don't like what it does. Doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean it's not perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
It just means I'm not comfortable with it.
That's fair.
So what I did with this one is I said, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this economical for everybody involved. So you buy one Wildcat box, you buy one Heavy Rocket Launcher Wildcat, you buy one Gecko box, you buy the Intruder double pack, and a Jaguar. And you can use anything as a Jaguar.
That's fair.
It doesn't matter.
They are just sort of jackasses with tattoos and
You know what?
piercings.
You can buy that little authorized bounty hunter with the 2 pistols. Who cares?
Oh, I love it.
That's a good one. Now, what I did with this one is, by the way, you have 5-man Link, you have a duo, a Gecko duo, and then you have 2 Intruders, which are 2 of the more despised models in the game.
Yeah.
Because they create some of the worst face-to-face roll options for your opponent. Intruders are important to talk about because they are camouflage. MSV2 medium infantry guys, right?
Yeah.
With BS13. So they get, when they want to, they'll get surprise shot. They'll eliminate the surprise shot. High burst weaponry like the HMG you see here. And then if you have a Jaguar who throws smoke for them beforehand, then they're creating a negative 12 pretty quickly for their opponent.
Yeah, you can get them to negative 15,
Yes.
which then goes back to negative 12.
Right.
But means even if they're in a good range, you end up at negative 12.
That's right. So
which is awesome.
that's what you want to do against like those TR bots, that kind of thing. So the interaction here, guys, for those of you new players, is you take this Intruder HMG, you take this Jaguar. Your first 2 orders of the game are, your first order is you put the Jaguar somewhere near this Intruder. You throw smoke in either on or in front of this Intruder. This Intruder is in cover. Very important to do.
Yes.
Put him in cover, or where he has to move into cover. and have the smoke around him. And then he surprise shoots the opponent, whatever that ARO piece. What your opponent will do is probably put out something in the link team. Do not shoot that something in the link team with your intruder necessarily. But if you're going against Toha, this is a fantastic idea.
Oh, yeah.
But don't go against the Galrail. Go against that Sukiel. That guy deserves it.
Yes.
Because you're going to ignore all the good things for that Sukiel. He'll get 2 shots off. He's a BS-13, but he's going to be hit you on 2 on 4s, and you're going to be on 13s. Yeah. Four shots on 13s. So you surprise shot him through the smoke. It creates a -6 shot back. Your surprise shot is a -3. Your camo is a -3. Your cover is a -3. That's where he gets a -15 from. If you go against a link team of 4 or more, they have 6th Sense level 2, and they'll ignore your smoke, your shoot through smoke, and they'll ignore your surprise shot. So don't waste your guns on that guy. Right. Waste on other things. Like any solo thing, even tags.
Oh, yeah.
Like hit those guys all day long. Like force their situation. If they've buttoned up or you've killed their ARO pieces, if you really want to kill an ARO piece, your Wildcat Link is probably better equipped for it. Move up into your ideal range bands with a Spitfire, move them upfield, and they're BS-13 as well. Actually, everything but the Jaguar is BS-13 in this list.
I love it.
And
easy
move
to
them.
remember.
Yeah. And they're just going to dominate through weight of fire, and that's really what you want to do. The Geckos can move up with relative impunity, armor 5, and covers armor 8. They're BS-13 base, but they have very medium range weaponry, so you need to remember that. These guys are great. This is one of those beautiful points of where CB designed a thematic concept and then made the rules fit. So thematically, the Geckos are tough little tiny tags that are designed to go into the wider corridors of a spaceship to where the Corregidor dominates and own that space. And
that's what they do.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
So find the most choked vantage points in your area. Watch out for warbands. Yeah. And then dominate. The lieutenant on this one is really an opportunity on me. I had 35 points left, and I said, you know what's 35 points? And intruder lieutenant is 35 points.
That's fucking cool.
And what's great about that is you put this guy somewhere else, away from something, prone. The opponent's going to think it's another intruder, which it is the entire time, but they're going to leave it alone. Yeah. They're going to think one of these guys, this guy in particular, or this Wildcat is your lieutenant, and that's what they're going to go for. Yep. This is actually one of the best protected models in the game. TO and camouflage lieutenants in general will help protect you against some of the more abusive things out there, like impersonators, which is the Fide, the Speculo killer. Then you have Oniwabans with inferior infiltration or superior infiltration. You have AD troops that are gunning for your lieutenant. Yep. Speculative fire from Drews or Emily. Don't put this guy within 5 inches of anybody else, and you're pretty much immune to lost lieutenant, which can be really disconcerting. Yes. So get to work with these other guys. Consider yourself to have 9 orders with which to work. And this guy is 1 order for himself, or 10 orders where you can work, but his lieutenant order, just keep that aside. Yeah. And if you need to come out and do something, make it later in the game.
Yes. Turn 3 is a really good time.
Turn 3 is a really good time. Go ahead, all out at that point. So these guys are
in the middle.
Yeah. These guys are great. They're pugnacious, which is a word I don't get used enough.
Right.
I think in life.
So something that strikes me about this list, and something that I think is worth mentioning, is having a plan for deployment, right? Regardless if you're going first or second. Right. But if you end up with a point where you are deploying first, one of the things you can do with this list is you've got this intruder HMG, which as soon as you're a Corregidor player, you put down that camo token where it can get a lot of vantage points. Everybody sees it. They know it's an intruder. Right. So what you can do with this is hold that guy back. Yeah. Right?
But put down the lieutenant.
Reserve deployment. Put down the lieutenant. Put down the geckos. If somebody sees 2 geckos across the table, they know they're going to be a pain in the ass. They know they're going to move up the table. So if they see that, their reaction may be, I'm going to put out a bunch of ARO pieces. I'm going to put out a missile launcher. I'm going to put out some guy with a Ferrobach. I'm going to put out some things that can shoot down a tag from long range, which is exactly what you want to be standing up for your intruder to go to town.
This will work exactly one time.
Yes.
But in a tournament setting, that's all you really care about.
Exactly.
And if you're working with a buddy, your buddy's going to figure that out
real quick.
Real quick.
Of course, then he puts everything down, and now you've got 2 geckos that can just run up the table and
Right.
you know,
Yeah, you put
hold
everybody
it down.
prone, and you're like, yep.
Yeah.
They move up there and they just do their thing. So the geckos are just a fun piece. The model, they just never get used enough. But in a limited insertion environment, that's what's great about the list writing aspect of that is you get to do fun stuff.
Yeah.
And for those of you guys that don't know, Wildcats are one of the best medium infantry links in the game.
Yeah.
Because for a number of reasons, one of which is they're super, super cheap.
Yes.
They're about 100, 105 points for 5 of them.
Right.
And for the same kind of link in other places for medium infantry, you're going to be paying 125 to 150.
Yeah.
So you get that point discount. Not to mention is for BS13, they are legit.
Fantastic.
This profile looks, I mean, it's a little bit better than Kamau's. When Kamau's come out, people are going to be real screaming about them. But yeah, you get an engineer and a link. You almost never see that, by the way.
Right.
Which I miss. Although you just had one in yours.
That's fair. Yeah. They're Archetype, man. They're actually pretty cool. I just got the new models. They look great.
Well, they needed models, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a list. You have a 5-man link here that's designed to go and get work done. It's got a heavy rocket launcher. There's also an assault pistol on the heavy rocket launcher, which gives you a lot of options. You can be burst 5 pretty easily and dominate, you know, like that 0 range band or that 8-inch A range band area. You got a Spitfire here to dominate midfield. Your heavy rocket launcher helps you approach with overwhelming fire. Literally, you get really close. You've got a boarding shotgun, stun grenades. For some, you know, you don't need a deployable repeater in this list, but it's there for you supposedly.
I do really like the light flamethrowers on things too, just because that forces your opponent to make a tough choice.
I love, yes. Right. So what happens is, for like this model right here, so let's take this basic Wildcat right here. Well, he's not basic, he's got number 2, but otherwise he's the basic one. You move up around a corner and you see your opponent. Your opponent looks at it and he says, okay, he's going to shoot me with a combi rifle. And so, well, he can either be shot with a combi rifle or a light flamer. So you wait for him to give your ARO. Don't jump the gun on telling your opponent what you're going to do before your ARO. It's very, very common.
Yes.
Whether you're an old or a new player, because you just kind of get in the zone, right?
Right.
Wait for the ARO. Say, okay, what do you got? And they say, well, I'm going to, are they going to shoot back? Maybe they have a boarding shotgun.
Yeah.
Like, I'll shoot back. And you're like, well, I'm going to flamethrower you twice because he's on the link, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, crap.
Yeah.
And it's great. Make your opponent say crap. Make him say it a lot.
Right.
Right?
Your guy's going to die, but hopefully you just set fire to 3 dudes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, maybe he dies. I mean, he's still armed too. I mean,
yeah.
he's got like a 30%, 35% chance to survive.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's a decent trade-off. It's still not bad. If you go up into close combat with him, then you could even knife him if you wanted to.
That's
You
fair.
present your opponent 3 different options. Essentially, you move into close combat with the first movement skill. This is on any model, okay? But make sure you understand the loadouts. My favorite ones are ones that have like ballistic skill attacks, a direct template attack, and then have a close combat attack.
Like a Myrmidon?
Like a Myrmidon.
Oh.
So you move into close combat, and they say, well, I'm going to shoot you as you come in. And if you're like, well, you know what? I don't want to be shot as I come in. And the Myrmidon has ODD. He says, I'm going to shoot you back with my pistol.
Yeah.
Because I want to create the face-to-face roll where he has burst 2 organically or burst 3 in the link with his pistol, and he wants to win that face-to-face roll. The ODD helps with that, and you're like, yeah, take it. Or you're like, you know what? I don't care. I need to hit a bunch of guys. I need to create that situation. I'm just going to chain rifle. Or I moved into close combat, and I'm like, I'm just going to smite you.
Yeah.
And smiting is also good.
Always.
It is good. Yeah. So that's this list. It's just kind of a fun list. But I think it'll work fine. It's got several specialists. Your geckos are specialists, although everybody forgets that. It's really only got one, the engineer.
Plus they got 2 assault pistols, which is just great fun.
And they're really sweet models.
Oh yeah.
They are amazing
Those
models.
little combat suits are cool.
They're really cool. I love their helmets.
I guess you got to get 2 of them for this list.
I guess you do.
Oh no.
You're welcome, CB. Okay, so what we're gonna do is
The Conticimento?
I think we're running a little bit long, so I think we're going to kind of advance. So one of the things that Kyle put together for today was we've expanded now beyond. You've done some 10 order lists. You've understood your list building schemes within that realm. So Kyle said, hey, you know what? Let's go further. Let's go up to the bigs.
We'll take a big list. So we're looking at Neoterra here. Neoterra is such a wonderful army. Our local Michael Barakiel has done very well with Neoterra on national and international scene. I guess he hasn't really played internationally, but he's done very well in the U.S.
Yeah.
They're an interesting army because they have no warbands. Their best close quarters model has CC 20 and is like 35 points in the Locust.
Oh.
And
I forget that guy exists.
yeah, they have almost no shotguns, and now with Bipandra being removed, they have, I think, no, there's like one. The Bolt has a shotgun, and the Orc, so that's 2.
Right.
Whatever. So what I've done here is
CSUs.
Oh, that's true. CSUs are fantastic.
No,
Yes.
Yeah. I love that they're in the new NA2s. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what I've done here is I've created 2 combat groups. This is probably not the most optimized because I should put a long range gun in the second combat group, but Neoterra. But the idea is to create 2 combat groups that are able to accomplish things independently of each other. Because if you've got one group where you've put all of your models and you've got another group where you've put all of your ARO pieces, well, then you've got a second group that is providing, in this case, 6 regular orders and 2 irregular orders that basically doesn't do anything for you in accomplishing the mission. Right? So you're looking at a mission like highly classified. You need to make sure that you're able to grab objectives. So what I've got in the first group is a handful of long-range guns. The Aquila with an HMG. I've got a Fusilier Link that has another HMG and a missile launcher. And then some other stuff that's fine. And those models are there for being dominant firing platforms. The Aquila is a BS-15. The Fusiliers in a 5-man link are BS-15. A Fusilier and a 5-man link with an HMG is rolling 5 dice at BS-15.
Right.
It's going to be able to wreck most things in the game.
Right.
And it's an 18-point model. So that's
The
pretty
Fusilier
cool.
missile launcher is one of my most feared ARO pieces.
Oh, he's such a bastard.
Because he seems to do so much more damage than he has any right to with 15 points.
Yeah, that's great. The Aquila I really like because there are almost no situations where an Aquila will be shooting at less than 9s.
Fair enough.
It's pretty rare to get it even down that far.
Mm-hmm.
So usually you're hitting on 12s or 15s, or if you can get something out of cover, 18s.
Right.
He's got an HMG. He's got a pistol for close range, which if you're using him right, you're not using the pistol. And he just serves as a dominant piece that is very threatening. What I'll usually do is take this Bulletier with a Spitfire and put him as my reserve deployment, because I've got this Fusilier team with long-range weapons, I've got the Aquila with long-range weapons, and so they are there to pave the way if any ARO pieces are up. If not, I have a Bulletier Spitfire.
There's a good point here that you are... One of the list building concepts that I think takes a little bit of time to really get, but after you sit across the table from people enough, you just feel it, is that you want to provide a number. No one can split their attention really more than 3 ways.
Yeah.
You want to create multiple threat vectors that can all give you optimal opportunities to win over whatever you're engaged with.
Right.
And the reserve model is that final gotcha. But when you already put up 3 or 4 of them, people just lose their minds.
Yeah.
And then you put up a 5th, and they're like, they don't know where they don't know where to. Especially if you're going second, they don't know where to prioritize their targeting.
Yeah.
Like inevitably, what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to kill that missile launcher, Fusilier first, because he's going to be. If you don't have smoke or you have limited smoke, he's going to be the one that's dictating the battle space. He's the ARO piece you leave up to just suck orders, because he's going to, in the link, he ignores surprise shot. He's he's going to win so many shootouts. That's going to get a lot of focus. This guy is, you want to kill this guy in his reactive turn. You don't want to get in an ARO shootout with this guy, with the Aquila Guard. The Bulletiers, they're going to be a massive problem because they have ODD, just like those Myrmidons did.
Yeah.
And they shoot better, especially when they get a little support.
Right.
and you really don't want to be on the receiving end of that. So you're going to want to kill the 2 Bulleteers. You're going to want to kill the HMG Fusilier, the missile launcher Fusilier, the Aquila Guard HMG, and then you'll finally start to feel safe.
Right.
After you kill those 5 models.
If you kill those 5 models.
Right.
Which I have not put all together
No.
to get hit by a missile launcher or heavy rocket.
They're spread all throughout.
They're going to be all over the place.
Because you want to also provide multiple opportunities for advancement. Like I said, you want multiple threat vectors, and that really means vectors are paths, right?
Yeah.
So you really want to find different ways towards your enemy, and maybe the Bulleteer only kills 1 model.
It's okay.
That turn.
It's only 23 points.
Yep. But guess what? He goes in Suppressive Fire.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's great.
He's in the bed. Yeah.
I really like putting him in Suppressive Fire and covering him with the Aquila. Because that means things that approach him that can bypass his ODD by throwing down smoke. Now they've got to deal with an Aquila at long range.
Teaming up. There's not a lot of synergies in this game. It's a low synergistic game compared to a lot of other popular games out there. One of the benefits of that is it allows CB to really make sure that you don't get OP crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Because the synergistic effects and layering effect upon magical effect that create banana situations.
No.
And because these are so limited, you don't see it as much. I would have put the Spitfire Bulleteer in this link as a comment.
Yeah.
Simply because if I was going first, they would take from this order pool.
Yeah.
And that gives you, but then you have 8, but then you're splitting between the Aquila and the Bulleteer, but then it gives you kind of a dedicated amount here. It's just a...
No, I've gone back and forth, and I've found that the other Bulleteer with the heavy shotgun in the second group and the Auxilia Forward Observer, I am able to spend a lot of orders on them, and they do just fine.
Okay.
And because very few people leave those pieces out to ARO across the entire table, I almost never spend orders on the Fusilier Link and the Aquila on the first turn.
Okay.
Occasionally, but
yeah,
pretty rare. So the idea here with the second group is that I've got more pieces that can accomplish objectives, and that can also be additional threat vectors.
Right.
Unfortunately, in this list, they're all relatively short range. The Auxilia has a combi rifle at BS 11, which seems like, why would you even take that?
1, 2, 3, 4,
right.
5, 6. You have 6 flash pulses.
Yep.
In the second order group out of 6 orders.
Yeah.
And one's a TO model that doesn't have it, but is still.
Yeah. The Hexa Killer Hacker is a wonderful specialist to go run up into the middle of the table. The Bulleteers with having repeaters on board means they're up in the middle of the table, so when those hackers move in to try to lock down the Bulleteer, I've got a TO Killer Hacker that can use the Bulleteer to take out those assault hackers with.
Yeah.
The Auxilia is a wonderful threat piece because he's only 15 points and he brings that bot with a flamethrower.
Right.
So when you have those camo targets in the middle of the table, he can be a real danger to them. If you can get him across the table into your opponent's deployment zone, he will really fuck up their link teams, any models that are grouped together.
Just wanted to check out his whip real quick because it's been a long since I looked at the Oxbot.
Yeah, they're
whip 11.
Pretty pano.
Yeah. I mean, because the Oxbot's one doing the intuitive attack.
Right.
So, one of the big things when you start graduating, and I would really say graduating to where you've gotten kind of a handle, not a mastery, but a handle on the 10 order list side, and you're like, look, I really want to bring a more horde-like list. You really do need to look at this as everything has to have a job and a mission, and you need to identify early on what you're going to utilize them for, have a plan before you ever hit the table what you're going to use them for. Understand that at the same time, much like combat, as soon as you get into combat, as soon as dice start to roll and you start to lose things you thought you were going to win with, your plan has gone to shit and things need to be modified. And then the terrain also is essentially the third player on the table, and you have to deal with that. But when you play it this way, it's gonna slow you down. 10 models, 10 orders is much different than 16.
Yeah.
Right. You've got significant higher percentage.
60% more.
Right. Math.
Yeah.
thought you were a history teacher.
That's about all I got.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. Yeah.
That's all right. The so yeah, I mean, you really do have to have a plan. This is a legit list filled with threats that I hate seeing across the table from me. If I was going first, I know what I would be going for. I would be trying to demolish the bulleteers first.
Yeah.
Because the bulleteers inevitably become a much higher level of threat because they can push your face-to-face rolls to such negatives that it's not really that enticing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd go for first. And if I'm playing somebody who's played me a lot, they know that I'm going to go for bulleteers first. So they're going to put those in nice guarded positions where I have to get through their defense in depth to get there. And yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
So yes, this is I would, if I brought, well, depending on what list I brought, I would spend a lot of time in my side of the field setting up minefields and putting together ARO packages that were designed to force bad opportunities.
Yeah. Mines definitely slow this list down.
Right.
If there are a lot. It's okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm just thinking because the Oxput actually here provides like a very important tactical piece in the Minesweeper provide very tactical pieces for the experienced player because they allow that you can change mines over. But you're still going to set up your field, I think, is the idea if you go first against this list. Let them come at you, hide more stuff, force them to spend a lot of orders, get through your minefield, and then they've overextended, and then when they've overextended, you start chewing away massive portions of their list.
Yeah.
Depending on the mission. If it's one of those missions where you can win the game in the first turn, don't do that.
Right.
Or go win the mission.
Right.
And that's cool.
Yeah, either way.
So, yeah, I'm not certain, because when you deal with a new player, I say deal like they're at work, but when you're talking with a new player and asking them lots of things about how they want to play, the style that they want to play, the theme that they want to play, we've kind of gone into some lists here to kind of like chew through some ways in which to actualize that.
Yeah.
But those are lots and lots of conversations.
Yes.
That we're trying to cover in like an hour, hour and a half. And this is only the iceberg. It's the tip, the very tip.
Well, it's that thing you see on the forums and on Facebook where somebody posts a list and says, is this a good list?
Yes.
And the first question you see come up usually is, what are you going to use it for?
Right.
What is your plan with all of these pieces you've got? And that's the most important part.
Right.
Listening to White Noise recently, right? Don was talking about taking 12 Dotarazi in a list.
Yeah.
I don't think I would take 12 Dotarazi, but it works for him. So
Don's the man.
fantastic.
I frequently take 5, and leave them unlinked. But yes, like you said, like you have to have a plan for what you're going to do. I've done a video about extreme impetuous models, which I haven't posted up yet. And Dotarazi is one thing that I use. And Dotarazi in teams is one of the things that I talk about because understanding the relationship in warbands, understanding warbands in general is a really big part of this game, both on the attack and defense side of that.
Yeah.
Because if you can't handle warbands in this game, you're going to get shredded by some stuff.
Yeah.
So there's really great warbands in this game. They're your closest, I think, to OP-ness.
Yeah, best 5 points you can spend.
Or 6.
Or 14 or 16.
Yeah.
Still.
There's still a lot of different warbands out there that do different roles in understanding what you're facing.
Exactly.
So, do you have any parting thoughts?
If you see that model and you think that's the coolest fucking model I've ever seen, buy it and use it.
Right.
Because it's going to be great.
Yeah. What's the coolest model you've ever seen?
I still think my favorite is the original Achilles. I love that guy.
You're so nostalgic.
I mean, to be fair, he was a real old model when I started the game.
That's what I'm saying.
But he's fucking cool.
Boy, I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
There's a lot. There's a lot now.
Oh, yeah.
Coolest model I've ever seen.
I do like the Cien.
So my OG model that I thought was the coolest model I've ever seen the original starter box Fide.
Okay.
Either him or the combi rifle Intruder.
Yeah.
And both of them are in exactly the same pose. The
Yeah.
difference is the Fide stares at you menacingly, as a Fide should.
Yeah.
The Intruder, in true Corregidor like nomad fashion, looks at you with his chin tilted up, like, "Ole vato,"
yeah,
like, and like wants you to fight.
Yeah.
Both of those models, very limited sculpts, that convey an emotional message. Those are my favorite sculpts.
Fantastic.
That's a fun little divergence. But you should play those models if you like them. By the way, they're also super good models.
Oh,
all three of the ones we described.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Fantastic.
Not just aesthetically.
Right.
Really good in game, which is a nice thing too.
Yeah.
But Kyle, thank you. I'm glad we got you on the show.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of shows since we've had you around.
Thanks for
We
having
try
me.
to, yeah, no, thank you. We try not to stuff too many men into this box because
Cool.
it's already warm in here, and like with 3 men, it's stifling. With 4 men, it's a different type of
Sweaty
video.
balls.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But thanks for coming.
Yeah.
It was good having you.
Cool.
Next time we'll get the suit.
Oh, God.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.